Hey, good day, everyone. This is Yuya, and I'm bringing you another Foundational Friday coming from the Enlightenment and Transformation Experience. Very clear on this evening, and if you're listening, for those of you who'll be listening to the archives, whenever you're listening to it, it's evening for me. But it's a time for celebration, and it's a very upful time for me because we just recently started again our class series, and we have some people who have been slowly trickling into the classroom, which has been wonderful, and getting the instructions and information that they've desired. So that's always wonderful. It's always good for me to see people learn and see them grow and be able to give them something that I know they can really use and apply immediately. Another thing that I want you guys to check out, I released another Orisha mixtape, Volume 2, and this one's really nice too. I have a lot of, you could almost say like trance-like cuts on it. Well, they could become trance-like depending on how you get into them. So definitely pick that up. You can go to orishareligion.com and get your free copy of the Orisha mixtape. And for the classes, we're on the Udemy platform, which is udemy.com, udemy.com/ANU-PRIESTHOOD1. So that's udemy.com/ANU-priesthood1. You can always go to Sadulu House too. The links are there. Just click on classes. Well, getting into this evening session, I wanted to really address the Yoruba Patakis and what they should mean for you and to you, and how you can begin to approach them with a level of confidence and proficiency. For anyone who's not familiar with them, I'll explain. But the Patakis are to be as phrases or stories, or some could even say the mythology that goes along with the Yoruba Odus. Now, the Odus, as I've expressed before, are the cosmic wombs and chakra points to the universe. There are 16 major Odus, leaving us with, when we double them up, a combination of 256. Now, each one of these Odus has a series of stories, or we call Patakis, that are associated with them. And these stories help us to understand various things about those Odus. Now, let's say like this, for those who have no familiarity at all, if you're a first-time listener and you didn't get an opportunity to check out my YouTube video on it or any other show where I explained it, if you could picture an Odu, let's say a symbol that has great power. We'll just keep it simple, like a Ankh, right? And if you look it up, if I said, okay, well, the Ankh represents, the heavenly plane and the earthly plane, or I could say the Ankh represents the male phallus and the female womb, or the Ankh represents, an electromagnetic field. Now, all of these things are true, but it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to one coming in if I just say that. Okay, so why don't you just say electromagnetic field? Why don't you just say man and woman? Why do I have to look at this symbol? Because the symbol itself serves as a gateway to a multitude of greater understanding. So, for instance, if I said, okay, well, let's look at it like this. We have the Ankh, and we know it has the upside down teardrop shape on the top, one horizontal line going straight, and then one vertical line. So if we say, okay, well, if you were to superimpose that Ankh over Kabbalah, the tree of life, we would see that it lines up to the Sephiroth, right? So we know that there's some connection between the sacred geometry of the tree of life and the Ankh. So we could actually tell a story that would explain tree of life and the Ankh if we said, let's say, okay, Doth, which is that Sephiroth up top, the hidden one, and I spoke about that before. For those of you who have taken the class or in the class, you'll see there's a lesson a Kabbalistic lesson that you're going to have further down. You shouldn't be to that point yet unless you race ahead, but you'll be dealing with some Kabbalistic understandings. But okay, so Doth is in the middle and it's the hidden Sephiroth. Well, if you were to superimpose an Ankh over the tree of life, where Doth is would be exactly where that hole is in the oval or the teardrop, right? So we know that's the dark hidden there, and everything is black behind it. Everything is dark. Well, that's the same thing as going into a womb. Now, the Ankh symbol itself, that upside down teardrop part or the circular part up top, is supposed to represent the womb. So now we have a greater understanding of what Doth is by the symbology of the Ankh. It's going into the dark place, the womb. Okay? So we could write a whole story about it. Let's just say if it was just a simple erotic story. A simple erotic story now could explain a deeper and greater aspect of the Kabbalistic tree of life. So in Ifa, you have, and not just Ifa, but also when you're casting de Oggun, this is the 16 cowries, you have Patakis, you have stories that are associated with each symbol. And we have, of course, 16 Ifa, we have our 16 symbols, and when we're casting de Oggun, we have 17, because no shells is Opira, which is itself. So we learn the stories so that we can get a greater understanding of the multiple aspects of those symbols and the multiple aspects of those Odus. For our purposes, though, I'm going to start us with a very simple Pataki, and I'm just going to walk you through. Now, this is a Pataki I haven't broken down yet, so I'm going to walk you through it just like I'm reading it for the first time, because I am, and show you a bit of my thought process when I read and what I see. And we're going to pretty much do this in a two-part series, because next part I'm going to get into the actual formula of what goes into creating a phrase or Pataki. Because what you'll find is that the Odus, though they are dynamic energies, they're not changing. These are primal energies that have created everything in existence. But the Patakis, or the stories associated with them, they are mutable. And they change is because our understanding of certain scientific and cosmic events change. So as that understanding changes, the stories that attach to these primal forces have to change. So I know a lot of you who have probably tried to read the Patakis, especially like if you bought some of the books like 16 Cowries and the Ifa Oracle. It seems very cryptic. And mainly that's because like the 16 Cowries, I think that was written by William Bascom. That book was really written as a thesis. And a lot of the older Yoruba books that you'll pick up and read, they're not really written from the perspective of actually trying to teach you the tradition. They're just kind of observing and putting it out there, because mainly the people who wrote the books didn't understand it themselves anyway. But most of these were people's theses, so it doesn't really explain much. But if any of you have any Patakis at any point, I know a lot of people have complained about how cryptic they are. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because they're meant to be decoded, because there's multiple layers of information within each one. But aside from that, we live in a different time now. So if I'm speaking about certain animals or certain herbs or certain events, it really doesn't hold the same meaning. That's why it's okay to update the Patakis if you have an understanding of the formula of Patakis, as well as understanding of the Odu that Pataki is associated with. Patakis change. And even when you pick up these books, a book that deals with Ifa, all you're reading is somebody's interpretation of what they thought the symbol or the Odu represented. That's what you're reading, someone's interpretation. So does that mean that you can have your own interpretation? It certainly does. So, but that's not something you just jump into. You have to understand and get some education on the actual format and the intention of these stories, because Odus are not to be played with. I'm very relaxed with a lot of things, but When you're dealing with the sacred Odu, it's like dealing with fire and water. They're not your enemies, and they don't have bad intention to destroy you, but water can drown you and fire can burn you. Though, like Fela says, water get no enemy. They're not really your enemy. It's just the nature of the enemy. Well, the same thing goes for the Odus. These are powerful primal forces. They're alive, organic forces. And if we were to just try to project ourselves or dive into the forces themselves, it would most likely be too overwhelming. We'd lose our minds. So we have the stories to explain the force to us. Similar to how you have Olodumare and you have the Orisha to explain the angles of Olodumare. Right? So the one I'm going to be dealing with is a very short story, and it's called The Boa Constrictor. And I'm going to read it from start to finish for you. Then I'm going to go back and explain. And if anyone has any questions, by the way, the call-in number is 347-945-7680. 347-945-7680. Okay, so let's get started. Ogun Fumini Ire, the famous hunter, lived to such a great age that he was no longer able to go into the forest and chase the deer and the leopard. Life had no pleasure for him than hunting, so he went to a magician and asked for some charm that would enable him to continue his occupation. The magician gave Ogun Fumini 2 pots, each containing a charm. He dipped his head into the first pot and at once was transformed into a boa constrictor, in which he entered the forest and hunted to his heart's content. At night he returned and dipped his head into the second pot, and so he became a man again. This went on for a long time without the knowledge of the old hunter's family. But when at last they chanced to discover the secret, they were filled with horror, and his son in a rage kicked at the pots and overturned them both. Ogun Funmini Ire was at that moment hunting in the forest, and when he returned to his house and found the magic pots overturned and empty, he was filled with dismay, for he had no means of regaining his human form. For some days the boa constrictor glided about near the house, seeking for a few drops of the charm, but in vain, and at last he disappeared into the forest and was never seen of again by his family. Okay, so here we go in our interpretations. Now I'm going to start simple, and I'm going to show you the first thing you want to look at when you're reading a Pataki. Because always the first line, I'm not going to say the first line is the most important, but the first line of Pataki sets the tone for everything. And you could spend your night just studying that first line. Okay, so we have Ogun Funmini Ire, the famous hunter, lived to such a great age that he was no longer able to go into the forest and chase the deer and the leopard. That was our first line. Ogun Funmini Ire. You know it's an Ogun, and they told us because it's a famous hunter. But Ogun Funmini means Ogun, give me Ire. Ire, as you know from reading the Grasping the Root of Divine Power, my book, means fortune. So Ogun Funmini Ire, we're talking about the aspect of Ogun that holds and contributes and bestows fortune, okay, and prosperity. So now we have a tone. We're told that he was at such a great age. So this is an older, matured aspect of Ogun. So this is an Ogun that has matured, okay? And he's no longer able to go into the forest and chase the deer and the leopard. So I know it's tempting when we read these things just to skip over stuff, but nothing is put in the Patakis as filler. You're supposed to pay attention to everything that's being said. So he goes into the forest. Well, what is the forest? The forest represents heaven, but it also represents, to a sense, the underworld. Okay, it's that dark place. It's the underworld, but it's where you go to get things, because you always go, everything that you get and you have comes from the spirit world. Everything that's created comes from the spirit world. Okay, so he was no longer able to go into the forest and chase the deer and the leopard. Well, what is a deer and a leopard? The deer in Yoruba culture is a symbol of beauty. The leopard is a symbol of pride. but also a leopard is an animal that kills without being provoked. Okay, so for one to conquer the leopard or be the leopard king like Shango would be one who would almost be like a king of the jungle. The leopard is known to be such a fierce animal. A leopard also represents beauty as well. So in Yoruba we call the leopard Ekun, and the deer is called Egbin. So anytime you see the words Ekun, we're dealing with the leopard, and it's known, it's beautiful because it has a spotted skin, and that's considered to be, a thing of beauty. And I guess here too, because people have leopard skin decorations and things they use in their home. But Egbin, which would be the deer, is also known for beauty and grace. Now, if you notice, Ogun Funmini Re, fortune, chased these animals. Now, that's key because I picked up something later on. But and I'm showing you how I break it down. This is how slow I go. And usually I will go a lot deeper, but for the sake of time and also to not really confuse anybody and to keep on a light level. So we have this famous hunter who is prosperous or gives prosperity, and he chases beauty, and he chases notoriety as a warrior and a hunter. Okay? And the next line said, life had no other pleasure for him than hunting. So he went to a magician and asked for some charm, which would enable him to continue his occupation. That was most likely Eshu or Ilegba. That could have even been Ochosi, but I'm going to tell you why I think it was Eshu. The magician gave him 2 pots, each containing a charm. He dipped his head into the first pot, and he was transformed into a boa constrictor. And then he hunted, and then it said he dipped his head into the second pot. When he came home, he became man again. So now he's going on different worlds, and he's shape-shifting. That's Eshu. Eshu is, again, we know Onibode, or the gatekeeper, bringing us between 2 different worlds. So going from the forest or heaven or the underworld back to home as a man, 5th dimension to 3rd dimension. Okay? Now, what's key when I said the thing about chasing earlier, it said that he was transformed into a boa constrictor. Now, if you know anything about the boa constrictor stays very coiled up. It's also a very beautiful snake. It has like a very unique design and spotting, but it's for the most part coiled. But when you see the boa, which we know is sacred to Obatala, and I don't know if I've said it in a broadcast before in my book. I know I said it in either one, but I always say that a matured Ogun is Obatala. Oguns reach to the point where they have matured in their Ogunness, in their ferocity, and their heat, and their action. They first become Shango. So the red becomes red and white. So now they have the energy of Ogun and Shango. When all that hot-headedness leaves and you become the energy of omnipresence, and you understand and recognize the oneness in things, because that's what Obatala represents, then you become Obatala. So that's like a graduation. So we see he becomes a boa. But here's the thing. It says he glided into the forest and he hunted to his heart's content. Okay? He hunted to his heart's content. So what's the key with that? Well, if you're a boa and you're uncoiled and you're gliding and you're moving, you have now elongated yourself. This is not only a symbol of the phallus, but this is a symbol of one extending their full creative abilities. When a boa is wound up or coiled, what is the suppression of creative potential, or even the suppression of sexuality, or the suppression of emotion. So those of you who have dreams and you're a boa, or you see a boa and it's coiled up, that's what that represents. When it's extended, that means now it's creating, just like a phallus. Okay. It says it went on for a long time without the knowledge of his family, and they discovered his son, and a rage kicked at the pots and turned them over. Here's the key. Now, remember when we first started, it said that this was a famous hunter who lived to a great age, right? So when he became the boa, his posture changed. He became lower, and you know a snake also represents wisdom. And also, the boa snake does not chase. When he was a hunter, when he was young or whatever, he chased what he wanted. When he became the boa or batala, now a snake is wise. It schemes on it. This is a different thing. This is something that comes with age and wisdom. That's one of the reasons why the snail is sacred to Obatala, because the snail moves very slowly. It has its coil, which represents inertia. It also represents the movement of energy and a couple other things, but we're going to keep it simple. So it's moving slowly now. That's a sign of maturity. Okay, so when it became the snake, it's not chasing anymore. So what this represents to me, let's say this came up in a reading, this sounds like someone who doesn't want to act their age. This sounds like someone who's matured to a certain age in life, but they want to still run with the young bucks. They still want to be a warrior and chase the streets or whatever. We're just going to liken it to something, or just do things that are not in alignment with their age class. And their age class now dictates that their posture has to change, and their creativity is not going to occur maybe even on a physical, sexual level. That's where we get the dare. He chased the dare. Now the creativity occurs on a spiritual level. That's why he becomes the boa now. He's not chasing anymore. So the hunter had to learn to change his stance from warrior to spiritual warrior, or physical warrior to spiritual warrior, or to elder. When his son kicked over the pots in rage, what I'm seeing is that this was taking the place as the new alpha male. Okay? And the father had to assume his rightful position as the youth claimed his old position by kicking those pots over. Now he can't even transform back into a man again. Now he stays at that spiritual place. Now that also means death, but also wisdom in death. The ability now in dying to do the things that you used to do before, but at a higher and greater level. So keep in mind too, the boa constrictor is like the largest snake, and it crushes whatever it catches. It wraps itself around it and becomes whatever it catches. It becomes that thing's total reality and crushes it. Okay, so him not chasing the leopard or chasing the deer, and remember again, the deer is in Yoruba is synonymous with a very strong person, or someone who's even daring, who's like a daredevil. So he was a wild child. He was a live wire, and he was given these two pots, which we know are odus or wombs, right? And those transformed him. Now it said that when his family found out, the son kicked over the pot, and for some days he stayed around the house seeking for a few drops of the charm. Well, this is called the Bardo period. This is when people die and their spirit still hangs around the body for at least 3 days before it transitions, because they're not really aware that no, this is you have to. So even though he was a snake, he was looking for a few drops of the charm, hoping still maybe I can still have some of this old life back. But like it said, he went into the forest eventually, was seen by his family again, because he had to move on to the next step in life. So the way I would interpret this is somebody who was holding on to a stage in life where they've crystallized themselves. I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter, I'm a hunter, I'm this. Now I was something back in my day. Well, that's over with now, Pops. Now you got to do something else. Or you have to understand that this next stage in life for you is going to be a stage of total creation. You're not just chasing anything anymore. You don't have to. Now as the boa, you are the creative force. You are pure creative energy. So that's one way to look at the Patakis. And again, I want to give you that basic example. I want you guys to find some Patakis and interpret them for yourself. But using that same formula, look at the first line and break them that's being given to you. That tells you everything. So now when we know that this means that Oggun bestows fortune, we now can understand how is it that we get fortune in this world? Through creativity. Fortune doesn't come through chasing. It's like the delta. In order to have things, basically don't do things. Whatever you want, do not chase after it, because it will always be elusive. You will always be chasing. Even when I say I want this, I want it. because then the universe responds and says, okay, we'll create a reality where you want money. You'll always want it if you always say, I want it, as opposed to saying, it's mine, and I'm here to receive it. That's how the boa acts. The boa knows I'm the king. I'm the biggest and baddest. I can crush anything I put my hands on. I just have to sit and wait for it, and then I just will pounce on you. Real simple. All right, so we're going to definitely do a part 2 on this one. But in the meantime, I definitely want you guys to check out the course, check out the new mixtape, Swing by Sadulu House, and sign for the classes. They're going really well, and there's a sale up until Black Friday, which I don't even remember what Black Friday is. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know if it's today or next Friday. I think it's next Friday, the 23rd. The classes are severely discounted, over 60%, 60 to 50%. So now is the time to get in on the classes. For those of you who got in before the discount, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you on phase 2. Now, when we get to phase 2 and phase 3, we're going to be dealing with these dudes real heavy, as well as the Patakis and how you actually get them down. You're going to use the same exact science when you're decoding any, look at the names, look at the face, the settings, things like that. That's whether it's a movie, whether it's a song, whatever it is, you have to start learning how to really get your decoding skills up, because it's really important, whatever we're doing spiritually, because there's tools going on all around your day. We're going to learn when you get to that lesson, the elements of ritual in phase 1. For those of you who did not race ahead, but we're going to part 2 on this one. And I said, definitely check out the works. Go over to Sadulu House and contact me if you need anything. We'll be doing live sessions on the class soon. Now Udemy is having some issues with their live session or live class servers. So we're supposed to be up this week, but I didn't get notification, so I'm assuming next week. If not, then we'll just do on Ustream. But we're definitely going to have the live sessions kicking off. But as always, it was a pleasure. And look out for our next session. And prior to that, like I said, I'm looking at doing a live show soon anyway, like a Ustream show, maybe twice a month. So we're able to connect and interact a bit more. But in the meantime, find those Patakis. And when we do part 2 next week, let me know how it went for you. All right? You can always call in or however we're going to do it. All right? So until next time, I'm Yuya, and I really enjoyed this time that we got to spend and just doing a live, real-time interpretation of this Pataki for you. And again, you can always go much deeper, but in the beginning, just keep it real simple. All right? Be well. Peace. .com/ANU -PRIESTHOOD1. So that's udemy.com/ANU-priesthood1. You can always go to Sadulu House too. The links are there. Just click on classes. Well, getting into this evening session, I wanted to really address the Yoruba Patakis and what they should mean for you and to you, and how you can begin to approach them with a level of confidence and proficiency. For anyone who's not familiar with them, I'll explain. But the Patakis are to be as phrases or story where I explained it. If you could picture an Odu, let's say a symbol that has great power. We'll just keep it simple, like a Ankh, right? And if you look it up, if I said, okay, well, the Ankh represents, the heavenly plane and the earthly plane. Or I could say the Ankh represents the male phallus and the female womb. Or the Ankh represents, an electromagnetic field. Now, all of these things are true. But it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to one coming in if I just say that. Okay, so why don't you just say electromagnetic field? Why don't you just say man and woman? Why do I have to look at this symbol? Because the symbol itself serves as Hey, good day, everyone. This is Yuya, and I'm bringing you another Foundational Friday coming from the Enlightenment and Transformation Experience. Very clear on this evening, and if you're listening, for those of you who'll be listening to the archives, whenever you're listening to it, it's evening for me. But it's a time for celebration, and it's a very upful time for me because we just recently started again our class series, and we have some people who have been slowly trickling into the classroom, which has been wonderful, and getting the instructions and information that they've desired. So that's always wonderful. It's always good for me to see people learn and see them grow and be able to give them something that I know they can really use and apply immediately. Another thing that I want you guys to check out, I released another Orisha mixtape, Volume 2, and this one's really nice too. I have a lot of, you could almost say like trance-like cuts on it. Well, they can become trance-like depending on how you get into them. So definitely pick that up. You can go to orishareligion.com and get your free copy of the Orisha mixtape. And for the classes, we're on the Udemy platform, which is udemy.com, UDEMY, or some could even say the mythology that goes along with the Yoruba Odus. Now, the Odus, as I've expressed before, are the cosmic wombs and chakra points to the universe. There are 16 major Odus, leaving us with, when we double them up, a combination of 256. Now, each one of these Odus has a series of stories, or what we call Patakis, that are associated with them. And these stories help us to understand various things about those Odus. Now, let's say like this, for those who have no familiarity at all, if you're a first-time listener and you didn't get an opportunity to check out my YouTube video on it or any other show